Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. I know this seems a little excessive. We're doing 2 videos on Cody Rhodes, but I've seen some takes that were absolutely ridiculous. I've seen some takes that are absolutely asinine. And so this pretty much, I'm forced by the response to the Cody Rhodes situation to continue talking about it. So we're going to do views from the Peanut Gallery almost exclusively. I've said all I needed to say on the subject of Cody Rhodes in that 30-minute video that I made. So I'm probably not going to be talking about it. But I will be talking about what other people's opinions. So let's get into this thing. Somebody says, quote, pretty much sums up everything Cody Rhodes has said the last couple of years about being the face of the revolution and wanting to change the industry. He just goes to where whoever is paying him more. He's a complete fraud. Oh, heartbroken. He's heartbroken. Oh God, I see. We're setting the standard already. People think that they're entitled to Cody. I mean, it's a good point. Cody did want to be the face of the revolution. He did. One of his last promos was him saying that he did everything that CM Punk said he was going to do. But I think that these people are more upset by the possibility that Cody's going back to WWE than about Cody leaving. So, like I said before, AEW is a club. And some people have said it's a cult. Yes, I see that. I see the cult-like behavior. And this is just one of it. But the way I see it is if sometimes when guys join other teams, people turn on them. People have said WWE fans do this all the time. And sometimes they do. Sometimes I do see people all of a sudden, they hate a guy, can't stand the guy because he puts on a different jersey. He goes works for a different team. That's all AEW fans are doing. They heard that, oh shit, if they just said Cody Rhodes is leaving AEW, most people would have been like, oh man, that sucks. Or see you later, Codes. You know, have fun in Hollywood or whatever the case may be. But it's that part of he's leaving AEW to go to WWE that's got everybody selling. He out here flopping like Ron Simmons, man. Somebody says, when wrestling is at its best, it's like any other bit of entertainment. It makes you feel something. Going from undesirable to undeniable is a line that has literally kept me fighting. Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes mean the world to me. I'm truly grateful for them. Excuse me? This guy probably got one of those voodoo shrines of Cody and Brandy in a room somewhere in his house with like wax candles and stuffed dolls and shit. Come on, man. Another guy. It feels like I just got dumped. Still trying to sort out through the news, but saying I am heartbroken is an understatement. Thank you, Cody Rhodes, for everything you have done to change the landscape of wrestling. What on earth? He's not dead. You think that Cody Rhodes got into an airplane that exploded like he was on the Columbia or something, like he was on the Titanic and got sunk into the bottom of the ocean. He's not dead. What is going on, man? People are, man, boy, oh boy. Ooh, boy. Oh, shit. What? That's tremendous. Oh, no. We got a what culture weirdo. I wish Cody the best, but somehow walking into the biggest wrestling promotion on the planet as a top star, highly skilled at every facet of the game, is a bigger bet on himself than All In. I don't even know what that means. If that means that somehow he's going to get buried, I think people are kind of jumping to that conclusion that he's going to get buried or pushed or whatever. I personally think that they would probably, for what they're paying him, they're likely not to bury him. If they're going to pay him, that's if he even goes to WWE. He's likely not going to he's going to get paid too much to get buried. And I know people think that, oh, Vince doesn't care about money. Yeah, to a degree, he doesn't really care about money. But if he's going to sign a guy to a big contract, he's going to try to get something out of it. Trust me. You know, he really wants his money back. Cody Rhodes was given 2 to 3 years of creative freedom for his angles, lax restraints on the production of his matches, and was pinned less than 10 times in singles matches over the course of 2 or 3 years. He bet on himself to inconsistent, polarizing results. Bet on himself. It's easy to bet on yourself when somebody else is paying the toll. That's all I'm going to say. Tony Khan was paying for this, by the way. So it's not like Cody Rhodes went and scratched up his own money and put it up to form a wrestling company. He became friends with a billionaire who had hundreds of millions of dollars to spend. It was pretty silly. Allow me to give my thoughts on the possibility of Cody Rhodes going to WWE. Personally, I'm open for the idea of Cody giving WWE a second chance. However, I hope they don't give him another stupid gimmick. I would like to see 2013, 2015 pre-Stardust Cody Rhodes again. Somebody posted a promo that Cody did in WWE. I think it was around the time right before he left, and he was talking about Vince making his dad wear polka dots. It was a backstage promo, and I forgot how good that was. That was a pretty good fucking promo. And Cody, I'm not a simp for Cody, but I'm one of those guys that said Cody gets over pretty much everything that he gave him, except Stardust. Stardust was the first time he really did something in WWE that didn't get over. Remember, Cody got a mustache once. And when he did the whole thing on, what was it? Rhodes Scholars. And he had the little mustache, and the mustache was super over. And all he did was get a mustache. So he was able to get over the whole dashing Cody thing. He got over the brown bags. He got over the mustache, the Rhodes Scholars. People were really hot for him after the Rhodes Scholars thing broke up. But then he hit that ceiling. You know, he had that great tag team with Dustin. That was incredibly fun. And then he just stalled. He just stalled out of nowhere. And that's when he ended up becoming Stardust, not shortly after that. And Stardust was just too big of a hole for him to crawl out of. He tried to play it up like Jim Carrey. He was playing the Riddler. And it was awful. So Stardust, I think, is probably the worst thing he's ever done, obviously. But, you know, I've never been against Cody. I've been against Cody's ego more than anything. Somebody says, like I said, I hope this is a work which will lead to Cody Rhodes turning heel and winning the AEW Championship in spectacular form, rather than Cody tucking tail and returning to WWE, which has treated his family like shit and turned him into Stardust. Treated his family like shit, like making his brother a household name. When, you know, imagine what Dustin Rhodes would be today if Goldust hadn't existed. For starters, Dustin loved Goldust, which is a very interesting thing that people think that Goldust is ridiculous. And it is kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, Dustin notoriously really liked being Goldust. And there's still elements of Goldust in what he does today. You know, as far as the face paint and everything. Wait a minute. Has my head been under a rock? Is Cody Rhodes really leaving AEW? I feel like this is the Pillman work all over again, and WWE and AEW have a working relationship. I think some people kind of want that to be, but I don't. I've heard those conspiracy theories that somebody said, oh, Vince used to fund ECW and Smoky Mountain and Evolve and a lot of other smaller promotions. They're currently doing it for Progress and WXW. Well, I think they just have licensing deals with those guys. Where WWE is secretly funding all these promotions. They're probably secretly funding AEW too. I'm like, Tony Khan is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That's just himself. That's just stuff he's inherited. He doesn't need secret funding from Vince. He doesn't need secret funding. I'm sorry. It doesn't make sense, bro. Here's another one. He didn't say he's officially leaving AEW in his message. Neither did Brandy. They thanked everyone for their time and said they loved their time. I'm holding out hope this is a massive work. But if it's real, wow! I don't see what was this benefit? If this is a work, how does it benefit anybody? You know, the same people who are going to watch AEW now are going to watch it in the future. I don't think that Cody is a guy. He's not going to lose you an audience, but I don't think he's a massive gain in audience either. You know, so I mean, it is what it is. I think Cody is interesting enough to hold an audience. He's a nice little glue. You know, he can hold it. But is he going to gain it? I don't think so. but I don't know. Here's another one. Cody Rhodes is leaving a wrestling organization, a true wrestling organization in AEW, for a quote-unquote wrestling organization that has been featuring wedding renewal ceremonies and spelling bees and academic challenges in WWE. And you're going to tell me it's not about the money? Okay, sure. I don't know, man. A true wrestling organization where a guy, mom picks him up and drops him off at work. A true wrestling organization that featured a guy singing in a restaurant. If that's your thing, man. See, this is the thing that really kind of makes me hope that, he does stab the AEW fans in the back, because they are completely and totally delusional. It's completely delusional to think that AEW, because they don't do a lot of in-ring skits, and they don't. Somehow it's different. It's not that different at all. So it ain't that different, ain't different enough for us to make a big deal out of it. Cody Rhodes, Brandy Rhodes, wishing you guys the best wherever you go. I remember when I met Cody before, and he was the first person told me they had a show in AEW coming. Soon it was on TV. C4 fighting back 9 in August 2009. What? Did he have a seizure? There's a picture of this guy. This is a picture of this guy with Cody. Maybe I shouldn't have made that seizure joke, because he looks a little sick. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Willing to bet Cody Rhodes shows up in WWE donning yellow polka dots. He should own the polka dots, bro. It should make it a family Rhodes thing. I bet you if he rocks the polka dots, it could get over. I think probably the polka dots wasn't really the problem. I think it was pretty much how he was used. I'm talking about Dusty now. Polka dots, people remember that shit. Oddly enough, that's a lot of people's first and maybe only memory of Dusty is when he was in polka dots. The WWE has a short memory when it comes to people who burned them. Cody is going to do indies in Japan to try to raise his value like he did after leaving the WWE the first time. If it works or not, he'll eventually go where he gets the best deal. Cody comes across as a guy who monkey branches. Monkey branching is a concept that is, you probably hear it a lot in the red pill community. It's like people don't let go of somebody in the past until they got somebody else already. So you may still try to, bang this ex-girlfriend until you actually get a new girl, then you finally let her go. That's monkey branching. Cody seems like the kind of guy who monkey branches. Like, he's not going to actually move on until he's got an opportunity somewhere else. And the whole bet on yourself thing that Cody was talking about, I think that during his short time in the indies, it was a little bit of betting on yourself, but then again, once he partnered up with the Bullet Club guys, the Elite, he just kind of rode the wave. And that's just kind of how I felt about it. So the whole Ring of Honor thing wasn't really him betting on himself. It was basically just him riding the wave of being a former WWE guy who is now a member of the Elite and buddies with the Elite. That's just kind of how I saw it. And plus, a lot of wrestlers are monkey branchers. They don't just leave to float through the independents or whatever. Usually they have something planned up, probably around the time they get released, and maybe they're waiting out their 90 days or whatever. But a lot of those guys in the past who, when they left, they had pretty much already had TNA deals waiting for them. And some of these guys, same thing with AEW. They already got AEW deals. They got agents and booking agents and stuff like that who can have these conversations. Even though off the record, these guys talk, even though, they can't legally sign a contract. They can probably say, oh yeah, this is what we were making at WWE. Maybe you want to add a little bit to that, take a little bit away from that or whatever, years, these type of things. And probably a contract is probably already put together before they even leave. So Cody seems like a monkey brancher. Let's say he's not going to WWE. That doesn't mean he doesn't have other things set up, because making a decision to leave, it took him 6 weeks to figure out whether he was going to leave, according to Dave Meltzer. They said he was having this conversation for 6 weeks or something like that. Then, if that's the case, then Cody was certainly monkey branching. He was certainly talking to AEW while also putting feelers out in other places, and it's smart business. You don't quit a job until you got a job set up. I mean, I'm pretty sure Cody has some cash but at the same time, that's a lot of income that's missing. You know, he's gonna end up getting that together. All right, here's another guy. Cody will have some sort of creative control written into any contract with WWE. People who think that he will be Stardust again are not living in reality. This could be a great storyline if WWE does it right. I expect Cody to win a major title at WrestleMania. I will give you part of this true. See, creative control, Cody is not worth creative control. You know, he is a top guy in term. When you look at the talent roster today, he's the top guy. But give Cody creative control. I mean, he's not a top level performer. He's not Steve Austin. You know, he's not Brock. He's not anybody who's going to gain you an audience. There are certain guys who gain audience, some guys who maintain audience, and other guys who lose audience. Cody is a high level, maintain the audience kind of guy. You know, he's a nice bridge, but he's not like a luxury structure. You know, he's not a monument. You know, some guys are monuments. You build around them. Other guys, you kind of say, okay, I respect this bridge. I'll kind of drive over it, but that's about it. But I also don't expect him to be Stardust again. I don't think he's an idiot. He's not going to end up as Stardust one more time. Cody Rhodes walks backstage at WWE chatting to new friends and reconnecting with old ones. Vince McMahon quietly watches from a distance. Bruce Pritchard sidles up to Vince, who, without breaking his gaze, leans towards Bruce's ear. I see him in polka dots. Oh goodness. Oh goodness. I'm telling you, Cody should do the polka dots. He should do it of his own volition, by the way. And I think it would be a nice little dig, especially if they were to do something silly like make Cody the WWE champion. Let's say they tell Cody, you're going to make you the champion. He should win the title in polka dots, and I think that would be excellent. A great nod to his dad. And I'm just being honest. I think that would be very sweet. You know, not even as a knock on him. That's what I would do, because I'm an asshole. I would treat it like it didn't bother me at all. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to win the title, huh? Okay, thank God I made these polka dots on these trunks. Going to show your ass something. All right, this is Dutch Mantel. Cody Rhodes is out of AEW because rumor has it he wanted more money. Can't blame him, but in your opinion, was Cody worth a hefty pay raise? And will Cody be missed? Is he worth a hefty pay raise? Well, that depends. How much was he making versus how much did he want to make? And I think without knowing either of those figures, it's impossible to know. Let's say he was making $2 million and then he says, I want to make $4 million. Then I would be like, double? Don't know if I can swing that one, Coaster. Maybe a raise? Sure. He helped, recruit some talent. He still does. He was the face of AEW. He deserves some money for all the work that he put in. But double? I don't know about that. If he wanted to make Danielson or Punk money, I don't see that. He should be paid under them. And that's even with the executive. I mean, he's probably had 2 contracts, though. He probably had an executive contract was probably worth more money. And he probably had a talent contract which wasn't worth that much money. If he was smart, he would probably just say, move more towards the executive part and kind of phase himself out of the wrestling thing. He is only like 35 or 36. He's younger than Danielson and Punk. And sure, he could have been the guy for the future, but he's not that much younger than they are, if we're being honest. He's like maybe 4 years younger than Danielson, maybe 6 or 7 years younger than Punk. I'm just doing off the top of my head. I think Punk's like 44, 43 or something like that. And Cody's like 36 maybe. And Danielson is like 40. So he's not that much older than him. But just looking at how the ability to increase business, I probably would not, pay Cody $3 million or anything like that. But 2, sure. 2.5 over the course of, I don't know how long. Sure. 2.5. Yeah. Okay. But $3 or $4 million. And I've heard that Punk is making around $4 million, which would be like Brock Lesnar money. Absolutely ridiculous. I wouldn't do that at all. So seems pretty ridiculous. Let's see. I might be in the minority here, but I don't think AEW losing Cody Rhodes is a big deal because he could never be in the world title picture. His future was always limited. Plus, it guarantees we'll see way less of Brandy, which is a gift in and of itself. I have avoided talking about Brandy because I just don't see, outside of kicking dirt on her for being gone, I really don't see any benefit. I don't see Brandy having that much value to WWE. I don't see that Brandy having that much value to anybody. She's not a good wrestler, and she's not really a great promo either. So I don't really see the value of Brandy. I see Brandy as an earring for Cody. She comes along like the tattoo comes along. You just kind of have to live with it. To say that losing Cody Rhodes isn't a big deal because he couldn't be in the main event is pretty silly. He was the face of the brand, even more so than the guys that they had on top, more so than Omega, more so than pretty much anybody. He was the front runner for what AEW is. He was the guy who was doing extra stuff for TNT. He was the guy who was doing the community outreach stuff. He was the guy who, when before they started getting bigger names like Moxley or Punk or Bryan or whatever, he was the guy who was doing the media. He was the guy helping to train talent. The Nightmare Factory was one of his ideas. They're losing a lot when it comes to Cody. And even if it's just a symbolic loss, it's the biggest symbolic loss they've taken in a while. And it still is a pretty good loss for them. WWE could sign the entire AEW roster and it won't produce one watchable minute of TV. We had access to all the talent in the industry for years and it's still been awful. These people are deeply in their feelings, very deep in their feelings. Somebody says, I mark out for Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton at Mania. To be quite honest, that is the match. That if you want to get Cody to the next level, that's the storyline in the match that you do. As I didn't really want to go into fantasy booking it, but that's really where I would start. Why wouldn't you start with Legacy? Cody's been gone. He's been doing his own thing. Randy Orton's still been there. And I would book it in a very strange way that would probably piss a lot of people off. Like, I would have Cody come in as Randy's in the ring. And Cody have his arms wide open, going to give Randy this big hug. And Randy's going to move in to hug Cody. He hasn't seen him in such a long time. Boom, RKO. First time you see Cody Rhodes in WWE, he gets an RKO. And then, we go to commercial. We come back. Cody cuts a promo about, he's not surprised. This is how WWE does things. This is how he's always been treated in WWE. He thought that Randy Orton was his friend. He went out to do everything that Randy Orton taught him to do. And he was Randy Orton's first protege, yada, yada, yada. But he always knew that he was hated in this place. And he knew that this was going to happen. But he was hoping that it was going to end up different. And then Randy would say something to the effect of, Cody quit. Cody is a quitter. I don't train quitters. And yada, yada, yada. And just run Cody down about all the stuff that he's done outside of WWE and how none of it matters. And basically you treat Randy Orton as the voice of what the fans think Vince McMahon is. And you treat Cody as a sympathetic underdog. Of course, Cody probably still get booed. So it'd probably be cheered because everybody hates Cody. But that's what I would do. And I think that would be a great way to get people interested in Cody. Instead of bringing him in on top as if he's some super huge superstar, you immediately make people think that you're going to plunge him back into the mid card by having him get an RKO and left laying in the middle of the ring, at least for a couple of minutes until we go to commercial and come back. And then he, of course, will say, cut his promo after that. But I think that would be interesting, from a jump start for a feud, almost immediate. Because they already got the story there. Now we just have to explain why Randy Orton gave him an RKO from the beginning. Instead of, at least playing along to the story. All right. Well, let's get back to enough fantasy booking. What is this? Let's face it, the job of executive was simply for resumes and the name Rhodes, which he couldn't even use at first. I doubt he did much office work. He probably did some angle booking, which causes the issues in the first place. I'm pretty sure he did book his own angles. There was a lot of conversation about Tony Khan taking over more of an executive role in AEW, that he was kind of playing the back a little bit. He was writing the shows, but the boys had a lot more influence over the show back then than they do now. And that was never more immediately recognizable than Cody. You know, Kenny Omega was still doing goofy shit. They were still doing Space Jam and Ghostbusters and all that kind of shit. But Cody's time at the top started to dwindle a little bit. I think it came when the whole Darby Allin thing. I think when he lost the TNT title to Darby Allin. At least I think he did. I don't remember. But around that time is when you started seeing less and less of Cody. But this is weird. This is very weird. This is y'all boy JD from New York. It's 3 a.m. I am still awake. And I still believe this Cody Rhodes thing is a work. And it's all one big master scheme by everyone involved. For what benefit, bro? What's the benefit? I'm going to go to WWE. Half the audience is like, go ahead. They suck. You suck. Other half is like, no, Cody, please don't go. So then you turn around and you come back. How is that going to make you all of a sudden the biggest babyface on the business or the biggest heel in the business? How does that increase the audience when only people who knows that you're coming or going are people who follow this stuff on the dirt sheets? You know, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Whatever. I think Cody Rhodes has taken some time off to be with his daughter, do a few TV shows, come back next year sometime rejuvenated. I just don't see him going to the competition for no amount of money. He could have been the champion of AEW if he wanted. I think he did. Cody found out the secret sauce, and I've said this a long time ago. I think I said it around the time AEW first started. Cody figured out that he didn't need to be the world champion in order to be the superstar and the highlight of the show. When he figured that part out, he mastered the game, because then he could always avoid the Jeff Jarrett. Some people still call him Cody Jarrett, but he figured out the belt is not the position. The position is the position. He had his own piece of the show, and he knew that as long as he had his gigantic, elaborate entrance with his fancy Captain Crunch jackets, had his wife and his dog and all of his friends, he knew that he had all that stuff, he would be considered a top guy. He didn't need the belt. You know, so he took himself off the table to be the champion. Very smart stuff by Cody. Unfortunately, people still was able to see through it, because the position is the position. And sometimes Cody was positioned to be a bigger deal than the world championship. Now, I actually said myself that he would probably take some time off, which I think is actually smart. And I'm okay with that, you know? So I think that him taking some time off is probably smart, you know? So there it is. Let's see. What else we got here? How many more of these things can we possibly do? Here's another famous wrestling YouTuber. Cody Rhodes really traded $3 million a year, an easy road schedule and less days to work, creative freedom, a TV show, media opportunities, EVP position, CBO position, his wife's cooking channel, and a guaranteed home for the rest of his life to be second best to Roman Reigns. I think you're kind of overrating Cody if you think he's going to be second to Roman. Okay, he's probably going to be 10th, maybe 12th. Or something like. Depends. If he goes to SmackDown, he's lost in the shuffle. Because even, most guys are lost in the shuffle. It also depends if he plays babyface or he plays a heel. On Raw, though, he's got a shot. He's got a shot on Raw. He has no shot on SmackDown. But all these people who have deep feelings, deep emotions about Cody is absolutely hilarious. Let's see. Any fan excited for this WWE is some fat TV PG bootio eating geek that can't wait to hear him be scripted and say things like, mark my words, he will get a beating. Wow, WWE creative, top tier. Fuck off, dude. You ain't shit but an internet shit talking bitch. Try me. Damn, this guy is super mad. This guy is very, very angry. I didn't read Brandy's goodbye because nobody cares about Brandy. In terms of this guy, Cody's promos have always been scripted. And he scripts his own promos. I'm pretty sure everybody knows this by now. Anybody who watched his show knows this. He scripts his own promos. And, well, if you watch the reality TV show, because didn't Jim Cornette go through this and showing how Cody, who workshops his promos, and his promos are not off the cuff. Come on. Man, this guy right here, this guy is on suicide watch. I need to get together. Okay, I'm so sorry. This is so silly. I'm on the verge of fucking tears right now. Cody is going back to WWE. He isn't returning to AEW. All the proof you need is in the loss of the TNT title. We had a chance to actually fucking fight back against the shit like AEW, and he fucking sold out on it. I won't forget this shit. This right here is the second day that non-WWE wrestling died. Cody managed to build up non-WWE wrestling again, only to completely fuck out on it when it needed him the most to get AEW off the fucking ground. Jesus Christ, I really don't know what to say. I'm so fucking depressed right now. He fucking sold out. Not even non-WWE matters anymore because the guys who build it up will just stooge for Vince eventually. Fuck Vince, fuck Cody, and fuck wrestling. Y'all are the marks that just want to be entertained in an extremely short term, completely careless of what will happen 5 to 10 years from now. Cody has caused irreversible damage to countless careers, killed a promotion, and has set indie wrestling back 10 years in one move. What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh my god, bro. Oh my god. This guy, he needs to be in a nut house. I mean, he needs to be served only soft-served ice cream with spoons. That's it. He doesn't need anything sharp. Keep him away from combs, shoestrings, belts, anything. This guy absolutely needs a padded room in a special house somewhere. Why would you come to... Why? Why are you saying this? None of this is true. almost none of this is true. AEW will be all right. Hopefully. Losing one player will not destroy AEW that much. It's a symbolic loss. But that's it. Can we not do all this? What the fuck? Wow. This guy's deranged. I was actually about to start winding this down, but this one is entirely too juicy for me to pass up. Brandy was the reason Cody was told to pack his bags. Their egos wore out their welcome. I'm sorry, Cody. You should have put your foot down on how she interacts with people backstage long ago. She is hurting your career. Stay home and raise your child in peace. Let Cody be. Then they're posting some type of screenshot. Let's read this screenshot because it seems very interesting. I don't know who's talking, so I can't... see, reading this is weird because I don't know who's talking or why or where it came from. So I'm not going to read it, actually. But it's just talking about, well, I'm going to give you the gist of it. Brandy has not been seen as an asset on camera, in the ring or behind the scenes. And so that ended up being baggage with Cody because people like Cody, pretty universally like Cody. Even people who say bad things about Cody like Cody, if that makes sense. But Cody wanted to be a superstar, and AEW signing big money contracts, especially with Bryan Danielson and CM Punk, changed the dynamic to a degree with Cody. And I'm not saying this wouldn't have happened if it didn't happen. But Cody knew and Tony knew that Cody became expendable. I don't know who's talking. Like, I don't know who's saying this. Is it a wrestling journalist? Is it another wrestler? Who's talking? I have no idea. So, apparently it was a quote from somebody. But that's weird. I just read it because why not? Fuck it. Content. All right. AEW losing Cody Rhodes is a huge L. I was legit rooting for them. It's a pretty big L. To lose one of your founders uh, 3 years into the run is not good. Not good. Especially, considering he's apparently leaving his executive position and his wrestling position. It's one thing if he decides to step back as a wrestler and to retire and just go and do executive work. It's one thing if he steps down as an executive to be purely in-ring talent. But for him to leave the company completely, man, that's a pretty big L. That's a pretty big L. That means something else is going on backstage. Earth to people who think AEW is working everyone with Cody Rhodes stuff. Do you think they'd mention charities, etc. in their statements if it was a work? Good question. I'm pretty sure that the charity stuff, I think Cody said that Amanda Huber is going to take over. So she's probably still going to be doing that stuff. But very interesting. It's all fun and games until we see Cody Rhodes in polka dot pants running after R-Truth for the 24/7 title and WWE trademarks Thronebreaker. I think people don't really get WWE. Vince has these wishy-washy relationships. So he does bury some guys for silly stuff. Like he buried Paul London. I think he fired Paul London for smiling during a promo. But he's actually rehired the Ultimate Warrior several times and put him in the Hall of Fame. Even after he dissed him and Warrior dissed him, they went back and forth for 20 years. But ultimately, when the Ultimate Warrior died, he was in the welcoming arms of WWE. That's why he got the Warrior Award and all this kind of stuff. He went back and forth with Hogan. He went back and forth with Savage. Savage, unfortunately, died before they can make amends. Of course, with Roddy Piper, but he kind of holds grudges. But if business precipitates him being able to take a guy back, Vince is not above not doing business. There's never been anything that I've seen that states that if he didn't think business could be increased, he's not willing to do business. So that's the one thing I've noticed. So my opinion on the whole Cody Rhodes situation, I think it's a work. Notice how in Cody's statements he had revolution in quotations. On March 6th, AEW is having their revolution event. I don't think it's a coincidence. That's a real conspiracy. He's going to be gone for a check's watch 3 weeks. He's going to leave for 3 weeks. They're doing this big shindig so he can come back as a conquering hero in 3 weeks. Come on, man. I don't know about that one, dog. Can't wait to see Cody Rhodes have 4-minute matches with Damian Priest for the United States title. That'd be great for Cody. I think people have these idea that long matches is good. Not necessarily the truth. The Cody Rhodes leaving AEW is the juiciest wrestling story in a decade. The war is back. No, it's not that juicy. There is no war. Guys come and guys go. It's not that big of a deal. People are pretty ridiculous. If he is leaving, probably taking some time off from wrestling, but I doubt he's going to WWE. Those are speculation with TBS and TNT, those shows that he has to appear on. WWE wouldn't happen until his contract there expires. So that's a good thing to look at. Would he join WWE and run counter to TBS and TNT? To be quite honest, I don't think WWE has programming that runs counter to any of that stuff. At least I don't think so. Second, who's to say that if he loses the TNT and the TBS contracts, that WWE just won't pick him up and put him on the network, or won't talk USA into picking him up? They're not above doing stuff like that. But that's a really good reason why he wouldn't leave AEW, at least not for an extended amount of time, to join WWE. Is that does he really want to burn TNT and TBS? But a lot of that stuff is probably already been recorded and in the can and to be shown on a later date. So I don't know. So Cody Rhodes goes back to WWE, screws them over at Mania Live, and bigs up AEW, then goes back to AEW, the biggest babyface ever. Mission accomplished. That's a good conspiracy theory. But what is he going to do? How is he going to promote AEW outside of saying it? Is he going to wear like an AEW t-shirt? You know, a lot of those people are, especially at a WrestleMania, there's bound to be people who already know AEW there. It's like there was people who are, who knew TNA. They chant TNA. They bring TNA signs, which are probably going to get taken by security. So what's going to happen? He's going to go out there in an AEW shirt. He's going to rip off an AEW shirt like, yeah, at WrestleMania. And then what? Get sued and then what? I don't know, man. That's very bad business, especially for AEW too. That's not good. Prior to AEW forming officially, I never understood how Cody Rhodes linked up with the Young Bucks and all of them. Even when it started, his presentation was always over the top. He always wanted to be that guy as a consumer of the product. I never saw him on that level, unfortunately. I think you're not the only one. But other wrestling promoters have seen him as a top guy. There was a reason he was made the NWA World Champion and he was made the Ring of Honor World Champion, because he can increase business for a smaller company. But I don't see him making that big of a difference in WWE. No one person, not even Steve Austin or The Rock, is going to make that big of a difference in the long term for WWE. It has to be somebody or a group of people that get over and are able to stay over for 5 or 6 years. Then things will turn around. Steve Austin or The Rock or John Cena plugged in for a month or 2 months or even 6 months only make that block of time better. And it's good for the quarters, because quarters are every 4 months. So Cena popping up for that short amount of time in SummerSlam really did huge business for WWE. But what happened when Cena left? It went right back to what it was before. So it doesn't really do them that much good. And then the longer that person stays around, the more they just become a member of the team. The longer Cena stayed around, the more normal on the roster he felt. So they're not going to do it that way. Cody isn't on that level anyway. So I don't see what the big deal is. This is a very strange thing. Let's see how much longer we're going to go. We'll go another 4 or 5 minutes, depending on if we can find some juicy pieces. If they bring in Cody for $3 to $5 million, expect some more of those budget cuts. No, there's no way they're giving Cody $5 million. Get the fuck out of here. The AEW turning on Cody Rhodes are as bad as WWE fans who slated him for years, who claim he's the best thing in wrestling in 6 months. It depends on what he does. He might actually do something that's actually good and become the best thing on TV for 6 months. Who knows? It's all about what's going on and what he's actually going to be doing. It's never about who it is. It's always about what you do with him. Always. All right. Cody basically created AEW, made them tons of cash, ran the developmental factory for the company, put over countless talent, and in turn made himself replaceable. I don't want any Cody Rhodes slander on my timeline. He did kind of do that. That's kind of the bad thing about the business of you need to put the young guy over. Because if the young guy replaces you, then what about you? Hogan was number one with this when it came to Hogan and Warrior. Remember? WrestleMania 6. Warrior is supposed to be crowned the guy. But Hogan wouldn't get out of the spotlight. Hogan kept... he did end up leaving eventually. But he showed that Vince, that Warrior wasn't really going to work without him. And so Cody maybe is trying to do the same thing. Maybe he's trying to show Tony Khan that, what is this show without me? What is this show without Cody? What about me? What about Cody? I don't know. Somebody says, might be weird, but since Cody Rhodes might return to WWE, I'd like him to win the title at WrestleMania and feud with Hill Ziggler at Backlash. Why? Why Dolph Ziggler of all people, for Christ's sake? That's people, man, you never understand wrestling fans until you get into some of this stuff and these people start saying weird shit. I know probably you say, like, you said that after you just said you would pay all this money for Cody to give him an RKO in the middle of the ring. I would do it just to troll people. Like, it would be such a huge moment, and I think it'd be so memorable. It would be so funny. Let's see. There seems to be, we're running out of juice here. The Cody Rhodes story has triggered an existential crisis among the AEW Mark fan base. The idea that pro wrestling is a job and pro wrestlers like money can't be squared with the fantasy world they have created where wrestling is an art form and wrestlers perform, quote, for the fans. That's going to get a heart. I'm hearting that one because that one's very good. Yeah, ultimately, Cody, especially now that he has a kid, he has absolutely no interest in being window dressed in a wallpaper. Cody can't do that. He's been, in the background for far too long. But Cody is doing a smart thing. I made a video recently that talked about how about I call him Ace Ventura? Fuck Jesse Ventura. Where, you leave, you become a big star, and then you come back. Cody, of course, did not leave and go become a big star in Hollywood, but he did become a bigger star in wrestling. So who knows? It's all about a trophy. JD from NY said it yesterday. Vince and Nick Khan simply want to put a trophy on the wall to say, oh, we took one of the founders. Within 6 weeks, Cody will be jobbed out. He has to know this. Cody Rhodes, you got to be smarter than this. Yes, they want to have a trophy of Cody. Okay. It's almost hard to believe that people are that conspiratorial. They're going to job him out in 6 weeks, but they're going to pay him a bunch of money. I don't know. I doubt he was going to leave AEW for less money. If he's going to have to take a pay cut or maybe his money is going to stay the same or whatever the case may be, I don't see him taking less to go back to WWE. If he's going to WWE, it's going to be because they're going to get closer to the money that he wants. Maybe not give him the money that he wants, but something closer to it. I don't see them spending that kind of money and then jobbing the guy out. I just don't see it. To me, the money that you would have to pay a guy like Cody, you're going to do something with him. Something. I'm not saying he's going to be undefeated, world champion, all that shit. You're going to do something. He's going to be factored in. The Bischoff idea of you don't have guys who make $50,000 pinning guys who make $500,000. I think that is pretty much the same in this instance. You're not going to take some guy who doesn't make that much money and have him pinning a dude who makes a lot more money. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. It's bad business, and WWE might have bad creative, but clearly they don't do bad business. Let's going to do a couple of more of these. Cody Rhodes to WWE still blows my mind, not because he was at AEW. I think we'll see more AEW wrestlers go to WWE in the future, but because he's been very vocal about how he was treated there and took digs at WWE whenever he could. Sure, yes, but a lot of guys do that. I mean, it's sad because you have to ask the question, how old are some of these fans? Because TNA was full of these guys like Cody. Interesting timing. Cody Rhodes leaves AEW, and we all know the businessman that he is, instead of showing up to WWE, which doesn't seem like a lateral move. Could we see a sale of WWE on the horizon to Cody Rhodes and some business partners? Oh my God. Oh my God. Holy shit. This is quite possibly the stupidest thing I've ever come across on the internet. This could be the dumbest fucking comment I've ever seen on this internet. This is a stupid fucking comment. Wow. Holy shit. Wow. Oh my goodness. Jesus H. Man, what the hell? Oh, that one fucked my brain up. I don't know about this one, dog. Oh boy. I don't think we can do better than that. So we're gonna hang it up. All right. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace.